Welcome to the Edge of Shadows, the channel where science fiction meets fear, and the unknown feels a little too close. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because today's story is one you won't want to face alone. This door may look ordinary, just another piece of metal and hinges, but it's not what you think. Because when this door opens, something looks back. If this door doesn't stay shut, it won't just release what's inside. It will change everything outside, too. Once it opens, you can't unsee what's behind it, and it doesn't stop at the threshold. It crosses over. It decides who you become. The night was heavy with fog, the kind that made sound feel thick and slow. Beyond the mist stood an old concrete research bunker, forgotten by time and swallowed by vines. Only one door remained untouched, tall, metal, and sealed with strange markings burned into its surface. People said it was part of a containment project from before the last war. Something no one was meant to find again. Eli, a field technician sent to restore power to the nearby relay tower, didn't know that story. He just saw the bunker as another job. His radio hissed with static, his flashlight flickered, and the door reflected the beam like an eye. When he got closer, his scanner began to glitch. Every reading spiked, then went dead. Something inside was interfering. He should have walked away. But curiosity, the same spark that drove every discovery, pulled him closer. The control panel beside the door still worked, faint lights blinking in an uneven rhythm. Numbers rolled across the small display, a countdown that hadn't reached 0 yet. He couldn't tell if it was starting or ending. Inciting. Incident. Eli leaned in. The hum grew louder, a pulse deep in the walls, like the bunker itself was breathing. He tried the intercom. No answer. The console clicked once, twice, then displayed a single message. "Do not open." He laughed under his breath. "Yeah, sure. Because that's not suspicious at all." He reached for the latch. The door shuddered as he touched it, warm under his fingers like living skin. The countdown hit 0. Every lock released with a heavy echoing thud. Steam hissed from the edges, curling into the night. Something inside the darkness moved. Not toward him, but closer, as if it had always been waiting. And when the door finally swung open, it didn't reveal a room. It revealed an eye. Eli froze. The air changed, colder and thinner, as if the world itself was holding its breath. He took one step back. The eye blinked once, sideways, and a low voice, almost human, whispered from the dark. "You shouldn't have looked." Eli stumbled back from the door, his boots slipping in the wet soil. The air was thick, humming with a sound he could feel in his teeth. He turned and ran. Behind him, metal screamed as the door tore wider, bending like it wanted out. The fog swallowed everything except the echo of his breathing. His radio crackled again, the voice of his partner, soft, worried. "Eli, you copy? What's happening out there?" He wanted to answer, but his words stuck. A shadow stretched across the ground beside him, long and wrong, twisting even though nothing was there to cast it. He switched off his light. The shadow stayed. Branches slapped his face as he pushed through the trees. Something followed, not loud, but steady. Every time he stopped, it stopped too. The forest around the old bunker wasn't safe even before tonight. Roots snaked like tripwires, the ground soft and alive. Eli knew that if he fell, he wouldn't get up again. The sound changed. No longer footsteps, but breathing. Close now, hot and wet against the back of his neck. He didn't dare look. He kept running until the mist broke into a clearing lit by the flickering beacon of his relay tower. For a moment, safety felt real. The tower stood tall, humming with power, lights pulsing like a heartbeat. He reached the base, slammed the emergency seal on the door, and dropped to the floor inside. The concrete walls felt solid. The air was dry. He could almost believe he was alone. But then he saw it, muddy prints leading across the floor. Stopping right in front of the door he'd just shut. Something was inside before he got there. He reached for his flashlight again, the beam shaking as it swept the corners. Nothing. Just the quiet hum of the generator. Then the lights flickered, and in the half-second of darkness, something breathed his name. "Eli." His heart slammed against his ribs. He swung the light back toward the sound, but the room was empty. On the far wall, in faint, wet letters, a message appeared as if written by invisible hands. Don't look inside. The relay tower's power dipped again. Outside, through the thin slit of the viewing window, the bunker door still stood open, the fog pouring out like smoke, and somewhere between the trees, something whispered back, too late. Hours passed before Eli stopped running. The forest had turned quiet again, too quiet. He found an old cabin near the ridge, half swallowed by vines and thyme. Its wooden boards groaned as he stepped inside, but at least it had walls, a roof, and a single door that still locked. He pushed a table against it, then slumped to the ground, gasping. The cabin smelled like dust and rusted metal. A single oil lamp sat on a shelf, still half full. He lit it, the small flame trembling like it knew it shouldn't be there. For a while nothing moved except the flicker of the light and the shadows on the wall. Then came the knock, soft, careful. 3 slow taps on the other side of the door. Eli froze. No wind, no footsteps. Just that sound. He didn't answer. The knocks came again. "Who's there?" he whispered, no reply. Only the faint scrape of fingernails dragging down the wood. He gripped the handle of his flashlight, his only weapon, and waited. The sound stopped. Silence again. Then from behind him, a voice, quiet, trembling. "Please, don't be scared." Eli spun around. A girl stood in the far corner of the cabin. Pale skin, hair the color of silver dust, eyes wide and full of something that looked like pain. She wore torn clothing smeared with mud and blood. "Who are you?" he asked, backing away. "I was inside," she said. "You opened it." He felt the words hit him like cold water. "That thing back there." "What was it?" Her hands shook as she hugged herself. "You shouldn't have touched the door. It wasn't built to keep something in. It was built to keep me away." Eli stared, trying to understand. "You were trapped?" She nodded slowly. "For your protection." He didn't believe her. He couldn't. But when she stepped closer, he saw the truth written on her face. Terror, not malice. "Then what's out there?" he asked. Her voice broke. "It doesn't have a name. Only a hunger. When it finds someone, it doesn't kill them. It remembers them. It wears their face," the lamp flickered. The shadows in the corners rippled, bending where they shouldn't. "Is it following us?" Eli whispered. Her silver eyes met his. "It never follows. It comes home. The lamp went out. Darkness swallowed the cabin whole. By morning, the fog had thinned, but the fear hadn't." Eli and the girl, she hadn't given her name yet, walked along the forest ridge. The air smelled burned, like lightning had struck too close. In the distance, they could see movement. Lights sweeping across the valley, figures in protective suits, drones circling low. "They found us," she whispered. "Who?" Eli asked, but the answer came before she could speak. A voice crackled through the loudspeakers. "Technician Eli Ward, stand down. This area is under quarantine. You've violated Level 4 containment protocol." Eli froze. "Containment protocol?" "I was sent to fix a relay tower." The soldiers moved closer, weapons raised but steady. "Step away from the subject," the voice ordered. "You've been in contact with an unstable entity." Eli turned to the girl. She looked small now, fragile against the pale morning light. "They think you're dangerous," he said quietly. "They're not wrong," she whispered. "But not the way they think." A tall officer approached, her face hidden behind a clear mask. "You opened the door," she said evenly. "That makes you responsible. Whatever came out, it's yours to deal with now." Eli's voice shook. "What are you talking about?" "What is that thing?" The officer didn't answer. She simply nodded to her team. "You'll both come with us." "Containment, not negotiation." The girl stepped back, shaking her head. "No, if they take me, they'll never let me out again." Eli raised his hands. "Wait, she's not—" The ground trembled. A pulse of cold air washed over them. From the forest behind, the mist began to move, rolling, alive, crawling uphill against the wind. The officer turned, her calm breaking for the first time. "Oh no," she whispered. It followed. Her soldiers shouted orders, forming a line, weapons lighting up the trees. The mist split open and shapes stepped out. Too many legs, too many eyes, each one glinting like glass. The girl's breath hitched. You can't stop it, she said softly. Eli turned to her. Then tell me how. She looked at him, silver eyes flickering with something deeper, darker. You can't fight what you let in. You can only close the door again. Eli clenched his jaw, hearing the officer scream orders, hearing soldiers fire into the fog. Then show me how to close it. The girl hesitated, then nodded once. You won't like the price. I already paid it, Eli said. The world around them dissolved into smoke and screams as the creatures reached the line. The smoke thickened until Eli couldn't see his hands. The air burned in his lungs, filled with the stench of metal and ozone. Gunfire echoed, short bursts turning into screams, then silence. When the haze cleared, the soldiers were gone. Only the mist remained, swirling like it was thinking. Eli turned to the girl, but she wasn't where he'd left her. Ava, he called, using the name she'd whispered just once during the chaos. No answer. The mist around him shifted. Then he saw her. She was standing a few steps away, her back turned. The ground beneath her feet shimmered with heat. Ava? He tried again. Don't come closer, she said softly. Her voice was wrong, deeper, distorted, layered with something not human. Eli froze. The air around her rippled. Her shadows stretched long and wide, splitting at the edges like ink in water. Her hands trembled, her fingers clawing at her own skin. It's inside me, she said. I can feel it moving. He stepped forward anyway. We can fight it, she turned. And everything stopped. Her eyes, once silver, had gone black. Not empty black, alive black. Something inside her was looking out through them. Her veins glowed faintly beneath her skin, dark lines spreading like cracks through glass. Ava, listen to me, Eli said, backing away. You're still you. Her head tilted, emotion too sharp, too quick. No, she whispered. You let it in, and now it knows you too. The wind outside roared, trees bending like they were bowing to something enormous. The mist gathered around her, crawling up her legs, wrapping around her arms. Her voice came again, two tones at once, one human, one not. I can't stop it this time. Eli grabbed the pendant around his neck, a tiny silver chip reader, the last thing that still worked. Then remember this, he said. He pressed the button, sending a pulse through the air. The same frequency that had once kept the bunker sealed. The creature inside her screamed. The sound tore through the clearing, 1,000 voices at once, and the mist exploded outward. Eli was thrown to the ground. When he opened his eyes, Ava was there again, barely human, trembling, her body smoking from the inside. She looked at him, silver slowly bleeding back into her eyes. You shouldn't have done that, she whispered. You'll pay for it next. Eli's ears rang. Worth it, he said. You came back. She fell to her knees, shaking. For now, the wind died. The forest went still. Somewhere far behind them, the bunker door slammed shut on its own. The forest lay silent after the storm. No birds, no wind, just the heavy sound of rain dripping from the trees. Eli sat beside Ava, who was curled against a fallen trunk, her skin pale, streaked with dark lines that faded and reappeared like ink in water. He tore a strip from his shirt and wiped the blood from her face. You're hurt, he said quietly. She gave a broken laugh. Hurt isn't the word for it. Her voice trembled, softer now, closer to human again. Every time I fight it, I lose a little more of myself. Eli leaned back against the tree. But you fought it. You came back. That's what matters. Ava shook her head, eyes glistening with tears. You don't get it. It remembers everything I see, everything I feel. It's learning through me. The more I survive, the smarter it gets. He looked at her, the weight of her words sinking in. Then we'll find a way to stop it. To help you. She smiled faintly. Help me? You opened the door, Eli. You set it free. The only thing left to do now is close it again. And how do we do that? She hesitated, her gaze drifting toward the gray horizon. The bunker. There's another seal deeper inside. A failsafe. If we reach it, maybe we can lock it away again. But once it's closed, I'll be trapped with it. He shook his head. No, there has to be another way. She placed a cold hand on his arm. You don't leave people behind, do you? No, he said simply. Not ever. For a long moment, neither spoke. The mist was thinner now, the first light of dawn bleeding through the treetops. Ava looked at the sky, then back at him. Promise me something, she said. Anything. When it starts again, when I stop being me, don't try to save me. Close the door. No matter what, Eli swallowed hard. I can't promise that. You have to, she said, tears streaking down her face. That's the only way anyone gets out of this alive. He looked at her, seeing both the girl and the thing that haunted her. Then I'll make a different promise, he said quietly. I'll remind you who you are. Every time. Her breath hitched, and for a moment her face softened. You're a fool, she whispered. I've been called worse, he said. The rain started again, light at first, then heavy. They sat there in silence, side by side, watching the sky turn from gray to gold, both knowing the peace wouldn't last. When the first echo of movement came from the forest behind them, neither flinched. Ava stood slowly, pulling the hood of Eli's jacket over her head. They're coming, she said. Then we move, Eli replied, and together they started walking toward the bunker, toward the thing waiting behind that door. By the second day, Eli and Ava reached the edge of the forest. The trees thinned, giving way to cracked roads and broken fences that once marked the outer edge of a small colony. In the distance, beyond the haze, stood a concrete compound. Walls high, lights sharp, guarded by drones that buzzed like flies. That's the outpost, Eli said, pointing. Medical facility, communications hub, everything we need. Ava stared at it, her expression unreadable. Everything you need, she said quietly. For me, it's another cage. He turned to her. They can help you. Maybe figure out what's happening inside you. She met his gaze. They'll figure out how to use it. People like me don't get fixed, Eli. We get studied. Eli hesitated. He wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, but the fatigue in her eyes silenced him. Then we go in together, he said at last. If they touch you, they go through me first. The outpost gates hissed open when they approached. Soldiers waited, weapons lowered but ready. A man in a dark uniform stepped forward. Technician Eli Ward? Eli nodded. And this is Ava. She needs medical help. The officer's eyes moved to her, scanning her features. She's not human. She's alive, Eli snapped. That should be enough. The officer's tone stayed calm. She'll be treated, but quarantine protocols are mandatory. You'll both be debriefed separately. Ava didn't protest. She only whispered, It's happening again. They led her away. Eli followed, jaw tight, until a guard blocked his path. She'll be safe, the guard said. Until she isn't, Eli muttered. Hours passed before they let him see her. Through a reinforced glass panel, he watched as doctors examined Ava under bright white lights. Electrodes covered her skin, monitors spiking and dropping with each breath. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. The doctor in charge turned to him. She's stable for now, but there's an anomaly in her nervous system. Something active. What kind of anomaly? Eli asked. The doctor hesitated. Like a second heartbeat, but not biological. More like it's syncing with the energy around her. Eli's stomach dropped. It's still here. The doctor frowned. What do you mean? Before Eli could answer, alarms blared through the hallway. The lights dimmed, flickered, and the door to Ava's room sealed automatically. Through the glass, he saw her body start to shake, her veins darkening again. The monitor spiked. Get her out of there! Eli shouted. The doctor grabbed his arm. We can't! She's destabilizing! Ava's eyes snapped open, pure black again, glowing faintly in the red emergency light. She looked straight at Eli through the glass. You promised, she whispered, though he couldn't hear her voice, only read her lips. Then the lights went out completely. A second later, the backup power came on. The glass was shattered. The restraints were empty, and in the silence that followed, the only thing left was the sound of the main outpost door, slowly creaking open. The alarm screamed through the halls as red light strobed across the metal walls. Eli ran toward the security hub, his boots pounding against the floor. Every screen showed the same image, a distorted figure moving through the corridors, cameras glitching every time she passed. He burst into the control room. A dozen officers were shouting over one another, their faces pale, eyes darting between monitors. Behind them, a man in a gray suit stood calmly, hands clasped behind his back. His badge read Director Kellen. "Eli Ward," Kellen said without looking up. "You've caused quite a problem." Eli's chest heaved. "Where is she?" Kellen turned. His voice was calm, too calm. "Contained, for now. Your friend is remarkable. Do you have any idea what she is?" "She's a person," Eli said. Kellen smiled thinly. "She's a weapon that built itself. We've studied the readings. That thing inside her. It's not a parasite or a disease. It's a signal. Something old. It adapts, it survives, and it wants to connect." Eli stepped closer. "You think you can control it?" "I know we can," Kellen replied. "The door you opened wasn't a cage. It was a gate. And gates don't just keep things in. They keep other things out." Eli's hands tightened into fists. "You're not studying her. You're provoking it." Kellen's expression didn't change. "We prefer the word testing. If we can understand what she is, we can use it. Imagine a soldier who can rebuild from nothing. A weapon that learns faster than its enemy. You saw what she did in the forest. Now imagine that under our command." Eli shook his head. "You're insane." Kellen stepped forward, voice low and cold. "No, we're survivors. The colonies are falling apart. You think compassion will save them? Power will. And she's power in its purest form." "Then you didn't hear her," Eli said quietly. "She doesn't want to be that." Kellen's smile faded. "You think she gets a choice?" Before Eli could answer, one of the officers shouted, "Director! Containment breach!" Kellen turned toward the screen. The feed showed Ava in her cell, or what was left of it. She was kneeling on the floor, shaking violently, dark tendrils rising like smoke from her back. The lights burst, one by one, as her pulse overloaded the sensors. Kellen leaned forward. "Fascinating," he whispered. Eli grabbed him by the collar. "You're killing her!" "She's already dying," Kellen said, almost smiling. "The question is whether she'll die useful." The lights flickered again. The feed went static. Then Ava's voice filled the intercom, soft and broken. "Eli, it's calling you too." Everyone in the room froze. Kellen's smile vanished. "How is she on this channel?" Eli's stomach turned cold. "She's not on it. She is it." The screens flickered one last time, then went black. The outpost had gone quiet again. Only the soft hum of backup generators broke the silence. Eli sat alone in the observation wing, his uniform torn, his hands still stained with blood. Outside, teams of engineers worked to repair the damage Ava's outburst had caused. Inside, the walls felt too small, too clean, like the world was pretending nothing had happened. Director Kellen had been removed from command hours ago, but the system he built still ran on its own rules. Ava was gone, moved to a reinforced cell deep below ground. No one told Eli where. No one had to. He already knew. He stood staring at the cracked screen that still showed her last reading. Heart rate, temperature, neural spikes, all now flat. He'd seen readings like that before. They didn't mean dead. They meant changed. He went to his quarters, locked the door, and pulled out his old field gear. His ID card, his sidearm, his toolkit, everything they'd confiscated and returned after the incident. He checked the charge on his weapon, the map of maintenance tunnels on his wristband. He could reach her in under 10 minutes, but as he strapped on his gear, a knock came at the door. 3 soft taps. "Eli," said a voice he almost didn't recognize. Her voice. He froze, then opened the door. Ava stood there in medical scrubs, barefoot, her eyes clear again. "How did you—" "They can't sedate me for long," she said simply. "I broke protocol coming here, but I needed to see you before morning." Eli stared. "They'll find you." "You need to hide," she shook her head. "No more hiding. I'm not running this time." She took a shaky breath. "I'm going with them, to the research facility." He stepped forward, stunned. "You can't." "They'll cage you again, experiment on you." "Maybe," she said. "But maybe they'll help. Maybe there's something inside me that can still be understood before it spreads." He clenched his fists. "You don't owe them anything." "I know," she whispered. "But I owe myself a chance to stop being afraid." Eli looked at her, anger burning behind his eyes. "Then let me go with you. I can protect you." Ava smiled sadly. "You already did. You opened the door. You gave me a choice. Now let me make mine." She reached out, touched his hand lightly. "Promise me something," he swallowed. "What?" "When I'm gone, you keep fighting for me, for all of us who end up behind doors. Don't let this place make you like them." He nodded, barely holding back tears. "I promise," she smiled faintly. "Then this is goodbye. For now." He wanted to stop her, to pull her back, to lock the door and never let her leave again. But when she stepped into the hallway light, he saw it. The faint shimmer of darkness crawling at the edges of her eyes, like ink beneath the surface. She was still fighting, and he understood that if he really cared about her, he had to let her go. When the guards came an hour later to escort her, he didn't say a word. He just watched as she walked away, head high, calm, unafraid. She didn't look back. The next morning broke with a pale sun, a colorless light that made everything look softer than it should have. The landing pad shimmered in the early haze, the transport ship waiting, engines humming like a heartbeat, too calm for what it was about to take away. Eli stood at the edge of the pad, his uniform pressed, his face unreadable. To everyone else, he was just another officer assigned to witness the transfer of a containment subject. But inside, his thoughts were chaos, memories of her laughter, her fear, her bravery, all blending into one ache he couldn't name. Then she appeared. Ava walked between two guards, hands cuffed in front of her, head high, no resistance in her step. The morning light caught in her silver hair. She looked stronger, steadier, and more human than any of them dared to admit. When she saw Eli, something flickered in her expression. Gratitude, maybe, or sorrow too deep to show fully. She paused for half a second, just enough for him to see it. He nodded once. So did she. Director Kellen stood nearby again, reinstated just long enough to oversee the departure. His voice carried through the wind. Subject A-17 will be transported to the Inner Colony Research Division for further evaluation. His tone was flat, official, as if this were only another shipment. Eli didn't hear the rest. The world had shrunk to the sound of Ava's slow steps up the ramp. Halfway up, she turned back, only for a heartbeat. Her eyes met his. They flashed silver, then black. The change was small, quick, but he saw it. She closed her eyes, steadied herself, and when she opened them again, they were silver once more. She smiled, a small, tired smile that said everything words couldn't. Then she disappeared inside. The ramp closed with a hiss. The engines rose in pitch, shaking the air. Eli stood rooted in place, watching the ship lift off, through the mist and into the morning sky. It became smaller, then just a point of light, then nothing. Behind him, Kellen's voice broke through. "You'll need to file a report, Technician Ward, and remember, it's Subject A-17, not her name." Eli turned slowly, meeting Kellen's eyes. "Her name is Ava," he said quietly. "Remember that when you write your reports." Kellen's mouth tightened, but he said nothing. Eli walked past him, heading back toward the outpost, toward whatever came next. He didn't know what the future held, only that he'd made a promise. He would fight for her name, for the truth, no matter how long it took. Far above, the ship vanished into the sky. And somewhere beyond that, behind another sealed door, Ava fought to stay herself a little longer. 3 months later, the sky above the inner colonies was a calm, cloudless blue, a sky that felt too peaceful for everything it was hiding. Eli stood in a waiting room that smelled faintly of antiseptic and metal. The walls were white, spotless, humming with quiet machinery. He had traded his patrol uniform for civilian clothes, but the weariness in his eyes was the same. It had taken him 73 days to get here. 73 days of endless forms, denied requests, refilings, and long silences from officials who preferred to forget what had happened at the outpost. But persistence was something Eli understood better than peace. Finally, they had given him permission for a single visit, 15 minutes only. A technician opened the door. "You may go in now," she said. No physical contact. Security will monitor everything. Eli nodded, stepping into the small room. A transparent partition separated him from the other side. And there she was. Ava sat waiting, her posture relaxed, her hair clean and brushed, her skin no longer gray but glowing faintly blue under the light. She looked stronger, calmer. When she saw him, her face lit up with a smile so bright it made the sterile room feel almost human. "You came," she said, pressing her palm against the glass. He mirrored her gesture. "I promised," she laughed softly. "They said you wouldn't stop. That you've been sending petitions, messages, complaints to half the colonies every day," Eli said. "Most got ignored." "Still," she whispered, "you didn't give up." He studied her face, the life returning to it. "How are they treating you?" "Better than I expected," she said honestly. "The researchers here, they're not like Kellen's people. They're trying to help. They think the thing inside me might be linked to neural energy, a signal that can be stabilized." Eli frowned. "Stabilized how?" "They call it a resonance inhibitor," she explained. "It might let me stay in control, maybe even live outside again. It's still experimental, but for the first time, there's hope." Eli felt something ease in his chest. "Then it's working." Ava's eyes softened. "You did this. You made them see me as a person, not a weapon." He shook his head. "No. You did that the moment you walked onto that transport." They talked until the technician's voice came through the intercom. "Time's up." Ava pressed her forehead to the glass. "Come back," she whispered. Eli smiled faintly. "Every chance I get. I'll hold you to that." He turned to leave, but paused at the door. "Ava," he said quietly. "When the door opened, I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life." She tilted her head, smiling. "And now?" "Now I think it was the only choice that ever mattered." Her eyes glistened. "Then maybe it wasn't a mistake after all." The door shut behind him. He stepped into the sunlight, a rare warmth settling on his face. For the first time since that night, he felt something close to peace. But as he walked down the corridor, an alarm sounded somewhere deeper in the facility. Guards rushed past him. Through a glass window, Eli glimpsed a sealed transport container, smaller than the one Ava had been found in. Frost clung to its sides. Symbols he recognized were etched into the metal. A technician's voice called out urgent, "Get that unit secured!" It came from the outer colonies, same frequency as the first one. Eli stopped in his tracks. The container trembled. Something inside pressed against the glass, leaving a dark handprint that faded just as quickly. He stared at it, then whispered to no one, "When the door opens, don't look inside." And for the first time, he wasn't sure if he was warning someone else or himself. The alarm echoed through the sterile corridors, bouncing off steel walls and glass panels. People hurried past Eli, their faces pale, their voices hushed, but he didn't move. He stood staring at that container, frost crawling over its sides, lights pulsing faintly like a heartbeat trapped in metal. The same markings, the same design, the same kind of door. A guard brushed past him. "Sir, you need to evacuate the hall." Eli didn't answer. His mind was somewhere else, 3 months ago in the forest, in the mist, in that moment when curiosity outweighed fear. When he thought opening a door meant finding the truth, the guard turned back, impatient. "Sir, please!" The container thudded, once, then again, harder. The lights above flickered. The frost cracked. A whisper slipped through the noise, so soft it could have been his imagination. "Eli." He froze. The voice wasn't Ava's. It was younger, different, but it knew his name. The technician nearby muttered into her headset. "We've got activity, movement inside the seal. I repeat, movement inside." The guard raised his weapon. "Step back!" Eli didn't. He took one step forward, eyes fixed on the trembling door. He could see it now. A shape pressing from the other side, a handprint that wasn't quite human. Fingers too long. The same kind of shadow that once followed him through the trees. "Don't," he whispered to himself. "Don't do it again." But the mechanism hissed anyway. Automatic failsafe overridden by something unseen. The locks began to release one by one, metal bolts sliding open like sighs. Eli reached for the control panel. He could end it right there, seal the system, flood the chamber, destroy whatever was trying to come through. He'd spent months swearing he'd never make the same mistake twice. Then he heard it. A faint, trembling cry. Not monstrous. Not alien. Human. Help me. The words shattered every bit of resolve he'd built. He looked around, the guards shouting, the alarms rising. And in that chaos, he pressed the override key. The final lock disengaged. Steam poured from the edges. Cold mist filled the corridor. Through the blinding white, something moved, crawling forward, small and fragile. A figure, a child, skin pale blue, eyes flickering between silver and black. Eli dropped to one knee, speechless. Behind him, the guards shouted for containment. But he didn't hear them. All he could see was the child reaching toward him, whispering, "You opened the door!" Eli exhaled, closing his eyes. "Yeah," he said softly. "And I'll open it again if it means saving someone." The alarms cut out. Silence returned, heavy and absolute. The child blinked, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Eli stood, looked back toward the sealed wing where Ava waited, then to the open container before him. He knew what came next, the reports, the warnings, the fear, but he also knew something else. Some doors are meant to stay closed. Others are meant to test the people who open them. He turned toward the dark corridor ahead. "When the door opens," he said under his breath, "don't look inside, unless you're ready to see yourself." The lights flickered once more, and somewhere deep within the facility, another lock disengaged. The cycle had started again, and Eli walked forward to meet it.